Story 1. If being a good worker means exhausting yourself for a company that views you as replaceable, then that mindset is outdated. However, if it means taking pride in your work and using it to improve your life, then it still holds value. Story 2. For a few decades, I have done every job diligently and worked hard, while observing lazy individuals avoid responsibilities by doing as little as possible. Additionally, managers who possess impressive qualifications but lack practical knowledge or the ability to manage a workforce often get dismissed yet quickly secure another position. It seems to depend on the industry you are in, as well as whether you are working for commission or bonuses. Story 3. It depends on your direct supervisor and your field. You should always strive to be a good worker. Don't do anything halfway, as connections can open doors for you later in life. Story 4. I worked hard at 4 jobs and earned the same amount of money as someone who did the bare minimum. The only thing I have to show for it is a herniated disc and back surgery. I put in a lot of effort at my current job and managed to negotiate my salary, which more than doubled. I work for a much smaller company, so my contributions are valued and appreciated. Your question is highly situational. There is no single correct answer. Story 5. I have been able to remain employed and move up the ladder simply by being a good worker. Why would anyone hire or keep someone who isn't a good worker? Story 6. If I am not performing well, I risk losing my job. Why would that be considered an outdated mindset? If I had an employee who was not a good worker, I would let them go quickly. Story 7. I am older, but my experiences have shown me what is possible. With no formal college education, I have become a department manager by working hard and learning everything I could in my previous positions. I have had to change jobs and relocate for promotions, but overall, these experiences have led to my success. Story 8. No, you should not take job advice from someone who called a billionaire foolish and injured a boss. Story 9. My biggest critic has always been myself. My own standards are the reason I try my best, regardless of the job or pay. Story 10. Yes, I do. You take a job and you get paid. Maybe life didn't allow you to get the job you really wanted, but you have to pay the bills, right? Anyway, take pride in your work and do it as well as you can. The news is full of examples of people not doing their jobs. Mechanical failures on aircraft. Those individuals put their lives in your hands. Even on Reddit, check out some of the automotive forums. They're full of people getting taken advantage of by mechanics who weren't competent. There are countless examples like a barista not putting the lid on correctly or receiving a wrong order at a restaurant and so on. Don't be the one who does things half-heartedly. Do your job properly or go home. Story 11. If you just started, it's understandable. Or if it's for a promotion. But if you're planning to stay for a lengthy period of time, do the bare minimum. The goal is to get paid while doing as little as possible. I don't care what anyone else says. Story 12. I believe being a good worker involves making the necessary changes for your workplace to function effectively. Story 13. It is worth it in a high autonomy, high responsibility career, such as a doctor, social worker, or lawyer. These types of jobs rely on your individual skill set for success. You cannot attribute failures to your organization. Therefore, when transitioning to a new job, it is essential to possess the skills that match your title. Additionally, there is a significant impact on people's lives when mistakes occur, so minimizing errors is crucial. Story 14. It has never worked out for me. It seems that everyone only cares about charisma. You better roll a 20 and maximize that charisma while you are young. It will take you far, kid. Story 15. Not at all. Despite what people say online, working hard and documenting achievements, securing recommendations from management, and maintaining a positive outlook helped me land an engineering job without a degree. Hard work can pay off, but it is not guaranteed, and you must always advocate for yourself. Story 16. It depends on the company. I was a good worker and did unpaid overtime. I was always congratulated by my boss, but I was never promoted. I was let go along with several good colleagues for economic reasons, while he retained his less competent colleagues. Story 17. You should be a good worker if you have a good employer. However, it is always beneficial to be professional for your own self-esteem. This way, you can hold your head high and confidently say it wasn't you who caused the issue when you decided to leave. Story 18, that depends on the job. Working hard at my first full-time job was a huge mistake, and I regret it. I now have a job that pays more and requires much less work, and I am thriving. Story 19, I agree with some of the other comments. It is only worthwhile if you are recognized and rewarded for your efforts, and if you have seen the rewards handed to employees who have worked hard. Being promised something without proof of its actual occurrence is not sufficient. Story 20. Depends on the definition of a good worker at your company. A supervisor at my last job said that you are meeting expectations if you consistently put in a 60-hour week, and bonuses and pay raises were based on that. If that suits you, you'll do well, but there's also the important concept of work-life balance. Story 21. A good worker is very subjective and will change based on who you talk to. Some would say a good worker does what's best for the customer, others for the company, and others for the team. Realistically, you need to understand the situation and do what's best for your career. Story 22. There is a difference between a good worker and a company man. Being a good worker generally fosters positive relationships with colleagues and peers at other companies, facilitating easier job changes and potential self-employment in the future. It may also position you among the last to be let go during downsizing, similar to the situation of a policy-abiding company man. However, the company man scenario often falters when it comes to enforcing meaningful reciprocity in the social contract. Story 23. Yes, it's worth it. I believe that in everything you do, you should put the right amount of effort into it. That being said, if you are only half compensated for your hard work, take twice as long to do it. Story 24. Being a good worker has more to do with being a problem solver than simply putting in hard work. Anyone can work tirelessly, and it is not particularly impressive. Not everyone can think critically to find solutions to problems as they arise. Developing this skill is valuable, even if that job does not become your long-term career. Story 25. No, I take pride in my work and enjoy my job. I work with a lot of people who share this mindset, and I can easily walk over to the bar they have set these days. Story 26. It depends on what you mean. My general view is that it is good to be helpful and available within reason. If you are seen going the extra mile occasionally, it helps build good relationships that can lead to referrals in the future. However, do not exhaust yourself on random requests because progression is usually based on delivering high-impact projects. Therefore, it is important to set boundaries and invest time in activities that will genuinely help you secure a promotion. This ultimately means being prosocial but not naive. Story 27. Outdated. I tried it at my previous job. Being the hardest worker meant that the workload increased while the pay remained the same. It's not worth it in my opinion. It's better to just do the bare minimum unless you genuinely enjoy the job and are compensated fairly. Story 28. Yes, it depends on the job. I work well at my position, but I discovered they fired someone who had been there for 34 years because she used her cell phone. They don't care about us. I am replaceable, and so is everyone else at my job. At my previous job as a software developer, it was not outdated because that position provided cost of living adjustments every year, covered health insurance, and offered great benefits. Story 29. Work is a mutual business transaction. If my employer rewards me with adequate pay and conditions, I will work hard and willingly go the extra mile. If my employer fails to meet this expectation or abuses their position, then I will perform at a slow pace, doing the bare minimum, taking sick days, and generally not being motivated. Story 30. If you enjoy your job, you should be a good worker by default. If you do not enjoy your job, you may want to find something else, if possible, so that you can feel good about what you are doing and excel at it. Story 31. Wildly depends on circumstances. Rarely does a strong work ethic have negative effects on your career, so in general, yes, but not if it's at the expense of your mental health. Just remember that if you're stuck in a dead-end job with little possibility for advancement, the connections you make at those jobs can still prove valuable down the road, and those connections may also be solicited when applying for new jobs. Every job I've ever had, including fast food and retail when I was young, I've always tried to work my hardest even when others were slacking. It can be very frustrating, but an opportunity for my dream job came up a couple of years ago that required a number of professional references. I was able to use a handful of past supervisors and connections who spoke highly of me, and my new boss explicitly told me that even though I didn't have as much experience as other candidates, the way my references talked about me was the main reason that put my name at the top in their view. Story 32. That depends on how you define a good worker. I define it as using minimal effort to get the job done well in a reasonable amount of time. Story 33. Being a good worker is valuable. I have survived many layoffs and restructuring because of my strong work ethic. Story 34. The reason I always do my best is that I have self-respect. Additionally, I want my workplace to be successful. I will give my best effort during the 8 hours I am paid for. Unpaid overtime is exploitation, and I will not participate in it. Story 35. You'd have to be blind to not see that the average company views you as a machine they reluctantly put coins into to operate. They don't care about you as a person, and they are not invested in rewarding you or helping you grow, even when it would benefit them as much as it benefits you. On the other hand, being a good worker is the bare minimum in my eyes. I don't go above and beyond if there's no chance of anyone appreciating it. But I am still a good worker because I would be embarrassed to submit the poor quality work I see everyone else doing in almost every job imaginable. When I was a teenager, I worked at places like Subway and McDonald's, and my sandwiches and burgers looked like they do on the sign. It doesn't really take any extra effort, just care. I am not working overtime for free to get it done that way. It's only fast food, but I don't know how I would cope with the embarrassment of handing customers the poorly assembled products that everyone else made. I would have to put in extra effort in order to mess something up that badly. It's not about being exploited. It's just basic self-respect and pride in what you do. Story 36. You can be a good worker and buy some leniency for daily challenges, but when layoff time comes, it feels impersonal and unforgiving. So don't give them too much of your life. Story 37. I believe the best approach is to be an excellent worker while actively seeking other job opportunities, creating possibilities on both fronts. Story 38. I believe people should take pride in whatever they do. If you are a ditch digger, do it well. However, I advocate for people to be paid fairly. If you are underpaid, the only way to change that is by taking action. Control what you can control. Story 39. It led to multiple promotions for me, moving from the support team to operations management, then to strategy and product management, providing me with financial stability for the first time in my life. That being said, I noticed many people working just as hard who were not as fortunate. I had a supervisor who valued my efforts and assisted me in advancing my career. However, it also caused significant burnout, leading me to take 2 years off to recover. So, I am unsure. There may be a balance between performing well and maintaining personal well-being, but I have never been able to find that equilibrium. Story 40. Define good. For too long, going above and beyond has been the expected norm with little to no guarantee of increased compensation. It's an unfair situation. Working harder than your job description requires in hopes of receiving more money is frustrating. However, the workplace environment and culture can also have a significant impact. A friendly and understanding boss can command a lot of respect, which I demonstrate by going above and beyond. Similarly, getting along with and respecting your peers is important. Story 41. If I believe it will lead to more responsibility, money, and power, then yes. Certain organizations support this mindset by regularly promoting from within or creating progression plans for specific employees to help them achieve their goals. Individuals need to have a clear idea of what they want before any of this can be beneficial. Story 42. When it comes to career advancement, being liked and trusted by the right people is far more important than simply being known as a hard worker. Story 43. An employer and an employee often have conflicting interests. The employer's ultimate objective is to obtain the maximum results from the employee for minimal expenditure. Ideally, they want the employee to work continuously without compensation, and then move on to another when the employee can no longer contribute. The employee's ultimate objective is to receive the highest possible remuneration for the least amount of effort, while managing to work long enough to secure a modest retirement, rather than being used up and discarded by the employer. This dynamic is why the debate has no resolution. Each side has valid points, yet each side also has flaws in their perspective. Story 44. Do your job well and take pride in it. Do not lower your standards or deliver subpar work. If you are unhappy with your job, seek a different one. A defeatist attitude toward work can creep into your mindset and affect your responses to other aspects of your life, including home and relationships. Story 45. What is your job? Do you save lives? Protect the environment? Defend your nation? If you do, you need to excel in your role. If you are just a corporate employee, then it may not matter if you are present. Story 46. Yes, be a good worker and work hard. If you are unhappy with your job or position, talk to your supervisor. If your problem is not resolved, then find a new company that will value your talents or start your own business. It is unreasonable to show up to work and perform poorly. Story 47. Being good at your job is certainly not outdated as long as the job itself is current. If being a good worker means making sacrifices for the company, then it is outdated unless your supervisor would make sacrifices for you or you own the company. Story 48. I believe it is worth it for one's peace and the value of relationships to avoid being selfish. I think there is inherent value in being a good worker. It's not about compensation. It's about self-respect and not being selfish. Story 49. Generally, performing above and beyond others in similar roles will help you get noticed and advance your career more quickly. Remember, a significant percentage of people believe that they are in the top percentage of highest performers, so take self-assessments of doing great work with a grain of salt. Many individuals work hard and produce good results, but they often do not consistently outperform their peers, lack networking or interpersonal skills, or become stuck in difficult situations. Those who advise doing the bare minimum to get by are typically not offering constructive guidance. It is the kind of advice someone lacking ethical standards might give to get ahead at the expense of others. Story 50. It is worthwhile if you desire to be promoted and advance. If you are content where you are at the company and what you are doing, then you can maintain your current effort. Story 51. Being a good worker means having job security and a better chance of getting promoted and earning more money. I do not work hard for my company. I work hard for myself and to protect my own interests. Story 52. If being a good worker means you are compensated well, then let it be so. If not, do the absolute minimum needed to keep the job until you find something that properly compensates you. Story 53. It depends. If you are compensated fairly for your efforts, then it is acceptable. If you know it will lead to future promotions, it is fine. If you are doing it to impress your supervisors in hopes of being recognized, it is a poor strategy. More often than not, the only reward you will receive for the extra effort is that this will become your new baseline moving forward. Story 54. I believe most people want to do good work. What is outdated is sacrificing every waking hour to a company that may discard you in an instant. We have one life. Ultimately, what matters is the time you spend enjoying life and being with your loved ones. Story 55. Not anymore. An employer will take advantage of your worth but fail to compensate you properly and will not hesitate to terminate your employment if you raise concerns. Story 56. Being a good worker doesn't guarantee promotion or advancement, but it usually helps ensure job security at least. Story 57. Make yourself irreplaceable or very hard to replace. Companies often overlook the value of a great employee and may refuse to provide a raise, even when the cost of replacing that employee exceeds their request. For example, an employee may say, I want a $20,000 raise, bringing my salary to $100,000 per year. The response might be, no, sorry, we cannot do that. The employee quits, and a new hire who accepts the position ends up being paid $105,000 per year, along with the added cost of training. This behavior is common among many organizations, which is why switching jobs can be the most effective way to secure a raise. However, if you are truly irreplaceable, the situation changes significantly. If you have developed key aspects of a workflow and are the only one who can access and modify it, the company may be willing to offer you the $20,000 raise to avoid operational disruptions during a transition period. The first example is a relatively straightforward scenario that might cost the company about $30,000 in total. The second example, however, suggests a potential crisis that could lead to substantial losses over time, depending on how critical your role is to the company's operations. Story 58. It's outdated. I recently saw proof of this at work. I do my job properly and to the best of my ability. I clean up after myself when I can and try to solve problems independently while thinking ahead. Someone left the wrong valve open, and I asked if that was intentional. I received criticism for it. Another person turned off the air compressor, disrupting our entire pumping system because the valves are controlled pneumatically. Meanwhile, my coworkers walk around with two people performing basic tasks. I spent all day tidying up a workbench that they had messed up and helping to replace large air ducts and a pump, while my colleagues installed only one shelf. Somehow, they get coffee made for them during breaks, while I am not even informed when everyone else is taking their break. I refuse to do anything beyond my job. Story 59. Corporations treat you as disposable. There is no reason to work yourself to exhaustion for a job. Take care of yourself and enjoy life. A job is just a job. Story 60. Do you want to be a member of society that makes the world a bit better in whatever small way you can? Or do you want to be someone who expects others to do your work for you and contributes nothing to humanity? Which mindset seems better? Story 61. It is not outdated. At the end of the day, being a good worker is about work ethic. You either have it or you do not, but if you do not, you can choose to develop it. Story 62. It depends entirely on management. If you are rewarded for your efforts, then why wouldn't you try to progress? If you are not, your workplace is incentivizing the bare minimum, and you should provide just that while looking for another job. The caveat is that if you have no experience in the workforce, you should absorb knowledge and learn whatever you can. Once your learning stops, you can use that as leverage to move to the next opportunity. Story 63. Taking pride in one's work produces better quality products and enhances morale. There is nothing to be gained by adopting a negative attitude. The saying "you get what you pay for" is misleading. It is well documented that people's work is more a reflection of themselves than their pay. Increasing pay doesn't necessarily improve performance, and paying higher wages doesn't always ensure better quality. The world would be greatly improved if people cared more. Blaming corporate greed is an easy excuse that isn't helping anyone. Loyalty to a company is a different matter that operates independently from someone trying to do their best with the resources they have. I'm not suggesting that people should overly flatter their superiors. Story 64. In many places, the reward for being a good worker is more work. It doesn't take long for most people to realize that they will not get paid more for doing more. Story 65. I believe people should do their best regardless of compensation. It is inherently the right and virtuous thing to do. If you are not satisfied with the compensation, consider working elsewhere and see if the grass is greener on the other side. Story 66. It is outdated because employers no longer treat employees like people. This has always been somewhat the case, but now companies would rather terminate someone than give them a raise, even if hiring a replacement would cost the same or more than the raise. Employees are shown no respect, so why should we care about the job? Being a good employee used to secure your position. Now it just means you receive more work for the same pay, which leads to faster burnout. Story 67. No, it's not outdated, and in my experience, people who go through life with that attitude stay stuck in unsatisfactory jobs. There is some nuance here, though. You have to be working at a place that will actually promote you if you do well. Some people do have a good work ethic but remain in dead-end jobs where that ethic is never rewarded. This is more about the specific workplace than the type of job, though. For example, at one McDonald's, you may be a burger flipper for life, while at another McDonald's, you might get promoted into management just by sticking around and showing initiative. You also have to make sure you're doing the right kind of work and not just grinding away at tasks no one really cares about. Story 68. I was a public school teacher and did my best every day. The students deserved my best effort. I should mention that I was not compensated appropriately and was always underpaid. Story 69. As someone who has worked in and outside of the government, it is the same no matter where you go. It is all about connections. The work ethic does not matter. Story 70. Doing anything well and with skill is admirable. Working with unmotivated individuals is frustrating. In construction, those who put in effort tend to perform significantly better. Story 71. Will it get you promoted? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on what your manager observes. Can you take pride in it? If you believe even a little in what you do, good work can be its own reward. Story 72. No, because it will make you a target for individuals who cannot or will not compete and who bring others down instead of improving themselves. Also consider it from your manager's point of view. If you have 3 workers and one does the majority of the work while another does not, whom are you going to promote? The one who is supporting the team. Story 73. It's always worth it. Even if your pay is low, if you show up and do the work, your manager will provide a good reference for a better job. It also helps build good habits. It is much harder to turn a poor work ethic into a good one than it is to maintain a good one. Additionally, if you are providing a service, the people you are serving deserve good service regardless of how much you are being paid. I am not the one who is underpaying you. Story 74. It depends on the company, but generally no. If you work for any chain, they are always focused on efficiency, and you are just a number. There is no joke about that. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.